Thanks so much. I would like to congratulate right at the outset Jyoth Foundation for giving us the opportunity to do the podcast. This is the fourth edition of Vasudev Kutumbakam Ki Aur. Today we will be focusing on healthcare and we have got the outstanding panel. I'd like to introduce our panel members. We have got Rakesh Mehta, who has been the global expert on API, worked in Sun, and helped in globalization of APIs in Sun. We have got Bhushan, who is the managing director for GSK in India, worked in multiple companies, right from Johnson & Johnson, and also played a very important role, not only in India, but globally in GSK. Last assignment before India was in Turkey. On my right side, we have got Sanjeev Naungul, who has been pioneer in multiple ways. He launched outstanding products in diabetes care in India, in MSD Januvia, one of the very popular products. Then went on to build successful brands in Johnson & Johnson, one of the most admired companies in the world. Then he got the knack for getting into entrepreneurship, and he joined Bharat Serum, where he made big difference, and now working with Mankind, which is known for reach of medicine all over the country. We have got Siddharth. All of you are aware, Siddharth has done a lot of work for this whole concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam, and he has been building enterprises, serial entrepreneur, and he will be talking also on this whole concept. So we have got a fantastic panel here, which will be focusing on Vasudev Kutumbakam Ki Aur in the context of healthcare. We'll make this conversation very, very exciting and very, very valuable from the practical point of view, what we are trying to do ourselves in our field, and how do we like to give a larger dimension to this whole thing. So it becomes a conversation, it becomes a dialogue, it becomes a starting point of many of the thought processes which are important in today's context. Let's start with the basic question to all my panel members. Vasudev Kutumbakam in the context of healthcare, is it practice or an idealism? Is it a myth or reality? I'd like to have the thought of everyone, and then we'll start building on this conversation. Start with Rakesh.
So, Vasudev Kutumbakam, in today's perspective, is a reality. And all of us have seen that reality during the COVID time. In COVID time, there was no medication available and no vaccines available. The vaccines done for Ebola, some work done other places. It was centralized resources pulled by the people, and they were able to develop a vaccine, and everybody had different variants. And India, from that perspective, gave vaccines free. Other countries did not do it, but India did it for free for countries which were developing and they did not have resources. So it is a reality and it functions very, very well.
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Jain, for giving me a chance to be a part of this incredible, not only the podcast, but even to get to witness the fantastic exhibition that we just saw as a part of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam 4.0. Couple of points for me. First and foremost, when you think of the 8.2 billion citizens globally, there's something that connects all of us at a common level, and health plays a central role there. So if you ask me from the lens of healthcare, namely pharmaceuticals and biotech, clearly this is well embedded in the work that we already do. So to some extent, I think the principles of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam are well embedded because pharmaceuticals are all about making an impact for one patient one day at a time, and to a large extent, therefore, is well embedded. A myth or reality? The question is, it will remain a myth if it remains on posters. How does it get embedded in policies, in practices, in the collaboration and partnerships across stakeholders? Will be a great opportunity more than a challenge.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev.
I feel Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the basic principle is that whether it is good things or whether it is not so good things, the world has an uniformity of treating everybody the same way. So my hypertension may not be different from a Chinese person's hypertension or a Japanese person's hypertension. Ultimately, disease doesn't discriminate. So if disease doesn't discriminate, therefore, in health also we should not discriminate in anything. And I think this wisdom has been coming out all the time, even from the past. And if you take simple example, we always use the word chikitsa vichalya. But if you just say chikitsa also means curiosity, or means diagnosis, or means checking. So Indian wisdom has always said that not everything that you say and do has a singular meaning. It has much wider meaning, and therefore, uh, applying our principles through Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam for today's world, for health especially, is a very important, say, way of forward for all of us.
So my view is that we are moving from more and more of a myth to more and more of a reality. We are not distinguishing between, like Sanjeev was saying, we are not distinguishing between diseases. We are not distinguishing between, if you look at pharma, it's perhaps one of the most globalized supply chains also to exist, right? Research happens somewhere, manufacturing happens somewhere, distribution is somewhere, APIs are somewhere. It's a extremely complex ecosystem. And if anything, India is showing the way in terms of how to make it more responsible, more accessible, and more affordable. And not just from the perspective of what we look at in terms of just allopathic medicines or pharma, but even just from our Indian way of life. The fact of yoga, meditation, all of these are effectively your Indian way of life, right? What was dhyan, what is yoga, what is meditation, your Indian way of life around your healthy living, your Indian way of life around Ayurveda, around holistic living, all of these things, in fact, I would say are now becoming more and more part of a healthier life. And I think everybody on this panel ultimately is aspiring to the same thing, to have healthier outcomes for more and more people. And I think we are seeing a shift not just in the tangible world, but even the intangible approach that we are seeing in the world, and how hopefully the world is getting more and more aligned to these universal principles.
I will take a slightly different kind of view. And if I look back during the G20 presidency, we talked of the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one planet, one earth, one family. But if I see last 2 years, the whole world is moving in a very different direction. There is war, and as was demonstrated, the exhibition 1 in 5 child is there in a world where there is conflict. The medicines were not available during COVID time. They were monopolized by certain nations. There is a concept of power today, that if you're powerful, you can rule the world. It's a concept of tariff. So although the question is it an idealistic concept? And if it has to be a reality, what to be done? So there are challenges. Yes, there is an opportunity, but is it, the challenges are more than opportunity? So in the healthcare context, what are the challenges which are there? Because unless we recognize the challenges, we cannot meet those challenges and create a world where everyone has got the right to health. Because if we see Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the third principle says health for all, education for all. Health is a fundamental right. If I see sustainable development goals, health is a fundamental right, and we are saying that by 2030, everyone should get the right to health. The question is, we have to recognize the reality. And what are the challenges which are there? Rakesh, just to talk about the concept, and you are expert there. APIs are monopolized by China, right? And if COVID was a great demonstration, they raised the price, right? So the availability becomes a question mark. So I leave to you. What are the challenges which are there at the moment, and then we will come to the solution.
So the challenges are in the supply chain in terms of put through, because today the world, if you look at the world, as you rightly said, the product is manufactured one place, developed other place, supplied from other place. So if there is a world becomes disruptive, then in that case the entire system gets broken, and that's what has happened, and that's what is happening with tariffs also. And today everybody is trying to protect their own turf. Every country is trying to protect their own turf and is making life much more difficult. So Government of India is working on a PLI scheme to make it self-sustainable because all starting materials today come from China. So India doesn't have starting materials. Largely, almost 70% of chemicals get imported from China. And China has a very low cost and they've just finished the level playing field. Say they made the intermediate so low price that the domestic players had to move out, especially in the fermentation products like Penji. There were companies, Hindustan Antibiotic doing it, Alembic doing. All of them moved out of the business because the prices were not sustainable in terms to put through. So that shift is happening, but that shift is very slow. And in case this has to work today, India is a major pharmacy to the world. It's a global pharmacy to the world. It accounts almost for 8% of the world total demand. It is 40% in the US. So every country is different, and India manufactures right quality products, affordable, and it works well. So once we improve in terms of going to the basics and putting it through, this would help the entire system through. We have great capabilities and we can bring it quite effectively, and our FDA record is very good. India is the only country in the world after US it has the maximum FDA approved plants. And running an FDA approved plant is not easy. And all of them are experts here and they know how difficult it is to maintain. So we have all the things. And as Jan Sahab rightly said, that affordability to all, how you put the resources equally, and unless and until there's a centralized power, it doesn't work. The first principle, what we say, is the central rule and somebody has to do justice. And justice is the most important. So it has to fit into the system to get it moving.
A great thought, Rakesh. Justice has to be there to make it Vasudev Kutam. And today, WTO is non-functional, UN is non-functional, WHO is non-functional. So there is a disappearance of rule-based institutions in the world. Now, how do you do it? That's the big question we like to address. Over to you, Bhushan.
From the same lens or?
From the challenges lens. Because unless we look at the challenges, it will become more of an idealism. Yes, it should be there, but how do you move there? And what is required to make it happen, particularly in the healthcare field? It is a great thought, healthcare for all. Mankind believes in it. They are making it happen. Will the commercial consideration be more? Will the patent issues will be more? Who is the deciding authority? Where does it work? And how do we make this Vasudev Kutumbakam make it work for healthcare, which is a fundamental right for every citizen?
Sure. I think I'll probably use Sanjeev's powerful analogy about disease not discriminating anywhere to begin with, because think about a child who needs an asthma medicine growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, where I worked for a few years, or Laos, Cambodia, wherever the child may be, the need is the same. So what does it really take for us to unlock and ensure that that child who needs that treatment gets it at the right time, the right equitable manners, and in the right manner? So if you ask me, the challenges currently for us are 2 or 3. One is when you define access is not about markets alone. It's about how do you make the products available to the end patients. It's not just about making products available in a certain system, healthcare system within a certain market. Till the last mile, till the time the patient is able to either ingest or take that injectable. How do you ensure that that pathway is seamless? And therefore, the policy frameworks around what it means to have that level playing field for everyone. Both, I'm an Indian, so I speak on behalf of India. I work for a multinational company, so obviously I wear those two hats. But I think the end objective is the same. Everybody wants to have the best outcomes for patients at large. So the first one is around access and policy shaping. The second one is really about partnerships. How do you forge those powerful partnerships to have those unlocks? I think those two remain challenges for us. As much as we keep talking about it, I don't see it, especially to the point that you made around we living in a very complex world, especially in the last 12, 18 months. Those issues are not going away anywhere. And how do you get the right stakeholders at the table to find solutions instead of, to Rakeshji's point, countries becoming more protectionist and under the garb of, just as you have food security, you have drug security now. And I think the pendulum shouldn't be swinging to the other extreme. I think the sanity is required somewhere in the middle. So I think, to my mind, those two are the biggest ones.
You raised a very fundamental point. Food security is important. Health security is important. How do we make sure that pendulum does not swing in the opposite direction? Sanjeev.
You know, when I look at what we went through the exhibition and saw how justice is being conceived and delivered from the ancient world, I think one of the things that really struck me hard on challenges was the fact that currently, one of the things we keep talking about is being pharmacy of the world. Yeah, therefore we are really talking about, if you are sick, we'll provide you medicine to get better. Yeah, that's where India's role has been. But when you look at India's past, I think health is a continuum. It is not. It doesn't start with your illness and doesn't end with getting better. It's a continuum from your birth till your death. At that moment in the before disease comes prevention, and and after disease comes rehabilitation, and also keeping your mental health and well-being well, because you need to recover both internally as well as externally. Now, then if you look at ancient wisdom and then you connect with Indian health systems, you realize probably one of the going up in value chain is also the fact that probably we are the ones who have a complete set of solution to everything, which we do not have in any other method of medication or method of treatment. Should we start thinking about it in more holistic way of thinking that, look, ultimately disease doesn't happen and we don't treat disease, we treat a patient or we treat a human being. And if that human being is the concept, then probably India has better systems to explain to the world that how do you take prevention, treatment, as well as rehabilitation and care in a much continuous way to ensure better justice for health. That's something that came to my mind as I walked around. And when you asked challenges, I was thinking about this challenge, that are we able to explain to the world that we can really help you with a solution which is much better than what is
That's very great. The great thought both Bhushan and Sanjeev pointed out. We call patient is the center of everything what we do. Sanjeev brought and Bhushan brought and Rakesh that human being is the center of everything. And when we are treating disease, we are not treating disease. We are treating whole human being. And the concept of holistic health, which is very important as far as health management is concerned. And India can be a big difference as far as that area is concerned.
I'm not an expert in, because I've not been on the manufacturing side of things and the production side of things, on things that we speak about, from tariff to IP rights to production challenges. But if I think of it a little more from the consumer perspective, I also think that there is a massive challenge in the way it gets administered to the end patient also. Our experience at Pharmacy has taught us that just having that medicine is one thing, and having it to the last guy in the smallest village is also a very big thing, right? And often, if you look at the models that we see in terms of what the PBMs, etc., are doing in the West, or the insurers are doing, God alone knows where that value goes from X to like 2x, 5x, 10x, 20x. God alone knows what that number ultimately turns out to be. We have shown in India, with UPI as an example, probably how an access can be given to every single person using scalable, sustainable technology and provide financial inclusion. I think our universal health program also that we are trying perhaps is that direction, or the right tools being provided to provide universal healthcare also to the last guy, right? We already have Ayushman Bharat, which is providing your insurance, but also your technology to ensure that your last mile availability is taken care of. I also strongly believe that perhaps if we are able to use our indigenous technology, like we have done, for example, in providing generics not just to ourselves but to the world, and become the pharmacy of the world, we have this potential the way UPI could become, let's say, an inclusive real-time money transfer mechanism globally. You never know if your Indian healthcare ecosystem of your universal healthcare using technology, using insurance and last mile and data records could actually perhaps become a big opportunity again for us to go to the world. I think the difference is, from an external perspective, the largest producer of some of these medicines can say, hey, we have a stranglehold on the API, we can dictate the policy. You'll probably have the largest buyer saying, hey, I'm the largest buyer and I will put tariffs and I can dictate the policy. We've never heard India saying, hey, I am the pharmacy capital of the world, tomorrow I'll choke off everything and hey, I'm going to ensure that you guys go away. Right? So we've always used our power or our thing for the benevolence and always looked at it as a productive thing and not necessarily as a way of saying, I'm going to choke this off. Right? I mean, what's theoretically to prevent India tomorrow from going to these negotiations with countries who are posting tariff and saying, I'm going to stop your pharmacy supplies, right? And say, okay, fine, let's see what happens. Again, I'm just saying we've never done that. And if I look at it from a challenge perspective, yes, there are challenges, but I also look at it from the perspective that you look at the benevolent nature of our being, which is shown through all these periods of time. And just like we've been the pharmacy of the world, I do believe that with technology, we can also be the country that provides the last mile model to the world to actually make it far more accessible. At least that's my take on this.
A great thought, two great thoughts from here. One is, yes, how do you use your power?
Yeah.
Do you use your power for domination, leveraging it for financial benefit, which India demonstrated and demonstrating? There is a different way to use power. And second, digital tools and universal health coverage, UPI is a great example, and something be done here. I'd like to go back to COVID, and there are a lot of learnings because adversity is the best teacher. And there is adversity. There are some players who play the game in the right way. There are some players who tend to monopolize the power on them, which Siddharth was talking about. Are there learnings quality from COVID environment? Can we play a vital role to set the trend for Vasudeva Kutumbakam?
So, as you rightly said, in terms of power, which US is doing, and the other people, China also did with the rare earth minerals, they're demonstrating that power, that if you don't do it, we can do it. But in India, never had that opportunity in terms of course, we are the largest supplier, and when the supplies go wrong, experience told the US prices just go multi-folds. It could be 10x, 20x of the standard generics into it. So, but at that time, the Indian companies look as an opportunity. Now, unless and until as a collectively government of India decides that we want to have it and work with the organizations, yes, definitely that point is very well taken, but there's a food for thought in terms of how you can leverage that position. And not only there, because India has an advantage in terms of API, it has an advantage in the supply chains, and especially when we're talking about respiratory for asthma, there's a huge demand and nobody can, Cipla, I'll just take one of the names, Cipla sells that product at 350 rupees, a canister, which in other markets is just not possible. So that is an advantage and India should leverage. And if they do as a policy makers and as companies, company leaders, definitely that would help.
Bhushan. So, Mr. Jain, one learning I always reflect on is, why does it take a crisis for all of us to get united and really accelerate solutions? Because I think COVID is a classic case where at global level, even in what India did in terms of the vaccine diplomacy was a fantastic example of what's possible. Why can't this be embedded in our routine ways of working? When on one hand, we are very proud to say that every third pill sold in the US and every fourth pill sold in EU is made in India. What does it really mean in terms of now converging all that we say on the innovation that we have in India with technology? And I think that's where the magic will lie. COVID is another example where We saw whether it was the regulatory systems, whether it was the partnerships, whether it was the access. I for one, never imagined that for a country of 1.4 billion Indians, all of us were comfortable with the COVID app overnight. That became a default passport anywhere in the country where you had to move. So there's a lot that we learned in that short frame of time. And I think we shouldn't be waiting for the next crisis to again unite all of us together. There's a lot of food for thought in terms of how during periods of no crisis, we really pull out those learnings and use them to create that moral high ground for us.
Fantastic.
I'd just like to add one more thing.
Yeah.
You said medicine for all. India could move down to a health card. So there's a health card and digitization of the artificial intelligence that can happen and it can be centralized. Definitely it help a lot to the country in terms of managing, just like UPI. Then it's very challenging. So you have Aadhaar card, you have link, so you know people, and on that basis, a basic health card can be done right from a child is born till he's old. This would definitely help.
That's a great point, Rakesh. In fact, government is talking Aadhaar card, which keep all the records. However, the response has not been good during crisis time. As Bhushan was saying, the response become very high. But when the crisis is over, we come back. But some of the other great points which Bhushan had been saying, collaboration, partnership, and maybe we'll build some lessons in the next session, next part, that how do we take advantage and we keep on building on learning.
Yeah, I think, Sudarshan, on COVID, I have a very different learning. And one of the biggest learnings that I had was that what is the cause of business? And I think you were probably also part of it when we were discussing with all the senior leadership of the government on vaccines and availability of vaccines and what vaccine should get approved. At a certain point, the leadership actually of the country said something which is important, said that, look, they are in business, or international companies are in business and their cause is making money. So they will respond to what the Wall Street thinks. While our cause of business is helping people. So we cannot rely on unreliable factors. And therefore, why we should use basically indigenized vaccines is only for this reason, that we should be able to manage ourselves better. And we should be able to demonstrate to the world that we can help you. Because that's a new learning of business, that definition that we can give to the world, saying that we don't do business for this reason. And that was a big learning, that how our thought is more assimilated because of centuries and centuries of wisdom on why we do what we do. And therefore, that was a very big learning for me, at least, in terms of always thinking about our business in terms of what is it going to do good for our people. And if you do good, you will do well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean if you do well, you will do good. So that's something that always matters. The second thing that I think I realized was that, as you mentioned, I think we were at the forefront of supplying 4 medicines crucial to world. Yeah. Probably equal to what vaccines companies did. I did not see a single employee complaining to coming to work. Yeah, and not having the fear that they will get COVID. They are in a setting where people have to come together, manufacturing. We did not have a single downtime in manufacturing day. People volunteered from third day of crisis, and so the amount of good feeling that people had to contribute to society was so high. And therefore, all the time, India can actually be a good learning ground for this, that contributing to society is something which our people take very seriously. When we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but this is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is that I don't care what happens to me, I need to be there for everybody. Yeah, and it was fascinating to see the behavior of people. So we need to take lessons from COVID, which are probably much more wider in conceptually, for us to prosper as a country even better, or to be known as somebody who is the source of wisdom also to the world in terms of health. I think we have a lot of learning at that time.
Happening there. Siddharth.
I think there's one more dimension of COVID. I think they've all covered dimensions which I don't want to reiterate. We've covered everything from people to our vaccine Maitri, to our collaborative approach, to saying why do we need a crisis to always learn, right? And why can't we have continuous learning? But I think there's one important point also which came out was it was amongst, I would say, the very few times when families were together. After I don't know how long. For good or bad, people were forced to stay with the family, right? Some people liked it, some people just hated it. But I think people were forced to stay together.
Yeah.
And I also think it was a time where people really found that how family as a unit can work. I mean, at least for once, a lot of work that happened in my home, it's something that I would have never thought that I or my father or my sister or my mother, some of us would do. But we were all doing. It was a great equalizer, ultimately. Right? A lot of us were used to certain kinds of support ecosystem. All of that was not there, and people actually found joy in your unit of being a family. And I really don't know when is the next time you'll actually get to spend 6 months with your family in the home, right? It was a forced, while everybody was working, but it was also a forced time. And it also brought a lot of people, the reality of life came in front of your mirror, that a lot of what we're all pursuing, ultimately we could all perhaps live in 1/10 or 1/100th of the means with 1/10 or 1/100th of the help and still live very happily with the family, right? So in my view, that was also one of the big learnings and lessons, that ultimately if you have your family and a few good people, you could all live still very, very happily, right? And focus on your duties, focus on your work, but still happen. And I think that's it's unfortunate that it took a crisis to get us all together in home, right? Because in prosperous times, we all continue to work and travel and don't find time to be with friends and family, but it took a crisis to get us all together with friends and family in your home.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Like if we go back and some of the lessons which are important for future, and I will give some examples of COVID, because we, Saji, Bhushan, and Rakesh were deeply involved. You were there all the time. Collaboration, OPPI, IDMA, IP, all work together, and we used to meet every day, make sure that the products are available. The workers were working on the ground, making sure that the products are produced. The representatives were going in the market, booking the stock. The transporters were taking the goods and making sure. In fact, I also remember on the road, there are no restaurants. So some of the companies, when the transporter used to come, they will provide the food to them. So it is taken care of. So great example of collaboration, great example of working together.
On the point of collaboration, sorry, I just want to add, I can tell you it was a period of unprecedented collaboration, right? Especially for digital platforms like Farmeasy. Like you said, COVID became the default language and digital became the default access medium for everything, right?
Correct.
The amount of surge that we were all seeing in traffic, right? It is unprecedented in terms of what we had seen, right? And like you said, we were all working 24/7, 365 without a single minute of break. But I must tell you, it was amongst the few times where everybody, even within the industry, was collaborating with each other. Industry and government were collaborating with each other. And I would say not just digital companies, we were seeing people from industries that were more consumer facing and I would say discretionary, who did not necessarily have their businesses being open, coming out saying that we are giving salaries to our employees, we don't want to fire them, but they are willing to come and collaborate and work with you. So we actually had people from ancillary industries who are coming and saying, hey, can we help Farmeasy with logistics? There are people who were running warehouses for spectacle companies and cosmetic companies coming and saying, hey, if you need people for running your warehouses, we can collaborate that with you. We had people in technical engineers who are from other companies coming. So there was so much collaboration within the industry, within the fraternity, with the government, with startups in general, right? And I think one of the, again, a prime example of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but it's unfortunate that it had to come at the time of crisis. But people were nobody was saying, hey, this is my team, my member, my IP, my property. We're like, let's just do what is needed to get things done and keep people healthy, right? So I think it was a era of unprecedented cooperation between people and teams, right? And I think the hard work of everybody just came across like left, right, center.
So one was great example of collaboration. Second, if I see the larger purpose, Sanjeev, you were talking about, during that time, API prices were going up, transportation price was going up, and someone said that we should ask the government to increase the price of the product. There were a lot of people, industry leaders, among all of us. We said, this is not the time of price increase. This is the time for servicing. This is a great example. A third example, there were other countries which were putting the ban on supply of products. Indian government took the stand. I greatly remember the example of paracetamol being stopped. There was big shortage in the UK. India was supplier of formulations. There was big debate even at the Prime Minister's office, and the decision was taken. Hydroxychloroquine was other example. We just started producing, and all of a sudden everyone said that HCQ is the solution. We didn't supply to the US, and Mr. Trump called up Mr. Modi and he asked the industry, and then Mr. Modi gave clear direction. This is not the time to hold. This is supply medicines around the world. We are pharmacy of the world. This is not the time to make profit. This is the time to take care of health. Great example, health for all. And Vasudev income in practice. Amphotericin is another example. And I remember many of the patients stopped people calling that, can I have amphotericin? And I remember Sanjeev, making sure whatever happens, the product reaches. Remdesivir. It is great example at the pricing. And the last example which I will quote, and examples. In fact, we have asked IIM Ahmedabad, Arvind Sai to do a study, the case study, which has talked about learning, which we should not get lost. The classical example, R.S. Sharma. He was the founder of Aadhaar Card, and he had gone away to Ranchi. He was called, can you create CoWIN app? And he says, how can I create in a 1 month's time? And there's a great story which he has written. He said that instead of 1 month, I want 45 days time. And Mr. Modi normally doesn't give that, he make it work. He said 45 days time I need. And the kind of app which we developed, if you get vaccine at Bombay, you can get the vaccine at Delhi. It is interusable. And a record of 2.4 billion vaccines at the cost of $2. And if the same vaccine could have been given at $25, the whole world will be different. And Sanjeev, what he's talking about, that conversation, at some moment of time, profits are beyond, and healthcare is an area. Now, going to the next question, like the India has got great advantage in terms of demographics. 65% of population less than 30 years of age. Biggest STEM talent in this country. We have 1 lakh doctors coming out, 15 lakh engineers, 5 lakh pharmacy graduates. We have got 65% of population less than 35 years, so we have got advantage next 30 years. The whole world is needing help in healthcare. What are our learnings and what we can do to be the real healthcare custodian? Some of the time, Siddharth also talk of family values, Siddharth talk about service orientation, and we talk also prevention and holistic health. What can we do given our demographic advantage, given our service orientation, given our family orientation, and given the fact that we as a culture look beyond domination of power, and healthcare is the great term. So maybe 1 or 2 learnings from each one of us, which we can summarize, which will help us to move forward the agenda of Vasudev. Rakesh.
In case of the healthcare, you have a lot of regulatory expertise which is getting exported out of India. So Chinese companies are hiring Indian regulatory guys in terms of looking and they're placing companies here. There's a lot of outsourcing work which is happening for the world on the clinical trials, which you know, and it's happening on the product development also, using nowadays with the models of the AI, they're shortening down the process, which they also did in the COVID time. So India as a young talent and lot more people coming into it. It's providing a hell lot of people putting it through it. And there are a lot of pharma professionals we walk across in all the companies in GSK. Also, if you move down to the UK part, you still see a significant chunk of Indian origin guys working down there. They may have taken a citizenship, but origin from that. So, and they're really giving a very significant results coming it through. And that is the advantage what we have, and that's the advantage we are providing. And in India, if you remember, whatever industry has got developed today, it was only because of Mrs. Gandhi in 71. She did not accept the Patent Act. So there was no polymorph patent accepted. There was no process patent accepted. So that helped in terms of building up the pharma industry. If that would not have happened today, what we are talking, this would have been a very different story.
So one is the regulatory environment and second is getting the talent, what you are talking about, Bhushan.
Sure. So I'm a diehard optimist about the India opportunity, like all of us. I think the most compelling document that I've seen in a long time is the Vikasit Bharat 2047 document. Not just for the 30 trillion baseline of our national GDP, but I think in terms of the sheer opportunity, when you think about scoping out, because the generation that's coming into the workplace now will definitely see 2047. I mean, many of us will not see 2047. At least I will not. But you see the opportunities that are going to be available. And I think some of the seismic shifts that we are seeing in terms of healthcare for all. We have the biggest insurance scheme globally anywhere, touching the lives of 600 million Indians. So I think these are some incredible steps that you've taken. How do you now triangulate these dots and connect the supply side with the demand side? Right? You always have a great equation on the demand side in terms of demographics. How do you accelerate and really kickstart some of the things on the supply side in terms of innovation, in terms of insurance, in terms of more partnerships? That is the theme I talked about in the beginning. I think a lot more has to happen on the collaboration side without waiting for the next crisis. So I think, to my mind, one of the reasons why many of my friends ask me for the last 30 plus years, I've been only in healthcare. My friends who did MBA with me in my business school. And I tell them that the first 4 words of the healthcare industry are all about healing. Health is all about healing, and that sense of fulfillment that you get every single day for having touched the lives of individuals who depended on that medicine, that vaccine, is far more rewarding than profits alone. So both are required, Sanjay. So, but I think patience over profits is what I think will really set the tone for us.
Very, very important. In fact, every day when we are there in the field, such a satisfying day, and we make a difference.
Look, there are 2 ways to get into this on the demographic story. One is the demographic story helps us in providing. Look, we in many countries, Indian doctors are the backbone of treatment. Yeah. In many countries, India's paramedics are the backbone of healthcare. As the amount of nurses we export is unbelievable, the numbers. I think there are institutions in this country where 80% of the nursing graduates are actually just flying off. So that is a demand that Indian maybe kind of caring tendency of the nurses is being in demand. Yeah, but on the other hand, we also need to understand that demographics come with its dividend as well as its debits. And one of the big debits that we see is, I'll give you a classic data that every year 1% of GDP growth is curtailed in India by diabetes and hypertension prevention. And just the existence of diabetes and hypertension and the sheer numbers, cut productivity by ensuring GDP growth goes down by 1%. It's much higher than what GDP growth you get by constructing roads.
Yeah.
So that is the impact that India is seeing. Early onset of those diseases. So how much are we going to make an effort to create a healthy body and a healthy mind in terms of promoting what we have learned through very olden times also, that we need to keep ourselves very healthy, and how to create a healthy living and promoting preventive health is something that we will need to take up very strongly to take benefit of it. The reason being that many countries are losing working age population. and India can be the source for it. And India can be a healthy source of it. So a healthy country is a wealthy country. US has shown us that wealthy country need not be a healthy country. So it's important that we ensure that as much as we talk about the demographic dividend, we also talk about the challenges that we might have along with it and how to overcome it to preserve the productivity of the demographic dividend.
Excellent. Very, very important. Yeah.
Sanjeev, what you were saying on a lighter note, the challenge is people want free movement of money.
Yeah.
People wanted free movement of goods till some of these challenges, but nobody wants free movement of people. They want our people to be where they are.
Yeah.
Right. So, but all humor aside, I think you are absolutely correct. At least in the field of healthcare, we're actually not just, I would say, not just the pharmacy of the world, but we are also the nursing capital and the doctor capital of the world, right? Because I truly believe that we are creating world-class doctors, not just for India, but for the world. And the demographic dividend that we talk about, I think somebody was saying that the lifespans are also increasing significantly with the advancement of medicine and healthcare, right? So if the world gets to a stage where every nation's lifespan is like the way the Japanese have today or longer than what it is, right? We might actually be surprised in terms of what is a demographic dividend today is like a lot of raw energy, and we have to figure out ways to actually put that raw energy to like insanely good use for ourselves and the world, because the next 10-20 years probably a lot of the world population will be aging and we'll actually be the workhorse of the world, right? And we'll have to figure out how to put it to good use for ourselves and
Movies are problem. This is a fantastic thought. Let's say lifespan has increased in last 30 years from 40 to 74, 45 to 74. But 50% of the people still are not healthy. The kind of diseases have changed from acute to chronic diabetes, as you were talking about. So the concept of health span becomes very important instead of lifespan. And then the concept of holistic health becomes very important. I will ask the last question and summarize, and then you can put one thought. Use of AI. Everyone talks AI. What are the ethical questions involved? Can it play a role for health for all? Can India be the role model in the world? And can it complement other efforts, what we are trying to do in healthcare?
AI is a great thing, and it's in terms of putting the thing that can be used very different things. But the issue at the end of the day, after development, is how that is used, how it is not misused. Because today, when I look at the people are taking, I'm giving a simple example, ChatGPT is quite famous nowadays, and common household, I was looking at my aunt, she had some symptoms, she just picked up the picture, went down to ChatGPT, picked in, then the symptoms are told, and probably whatever it was, she had some allergy, it got cured. But the thing is, if there's no restriction, and today I read something, a person died of using a wrong treatment on the ChatGPT. So if this is managed with the right course to put through, then probably it will work. Definitely it will help humanity a lot in terms of shortening the times of the product development. It will help in the supply chain, it will help in the manufacturing. And the speed is phenomenal. I was discussing one business model yesterday. So the people who do the BD, so there was a guy in the UK who used to be my ex-colleague, and with the help of the AI, he just said what products you want to launch in 2030, 31, 32. What advantage you want to have, you want to bypass the process patents, monographs and other things. And all information was available click away. The same exercise, and one of the guys in Sun probably said, you take up the job of the BD out if you start putting it through. So if all parameters are right from a legal point of view, because pharma is ethical, and if that works well, AI would definitely help mankind a lot. And it has already done a lot during the COVID time, what we have seen in terms of developing a vaccine, and a lot of models were developed, certainly on the animals, humans, and other things. So AI is a great boon, but only it has to be controlled.
Right, right. Sure.
My personal opinion, human intelligence will always be more important than artificial intelligence. AI is incredible. I think 3 years ago, 4 years ago, none of us knew anything about generative AI. Now you have agentic AI and what have you. I see it in two ways. One, it's on a continuum. So if you see our ability to really automate all those manual processes, so I call it IA. We were always doing IA, which is intelligent automation. On that continuum now, we are trying to use predictive modeling, analytics to really pull out inefficiencies and keep moving. How do we ensure that AI doesn't become that shiny new toy? Or like a child goes to a candy store and is getting enamored with everything that's good. There is a balance there. I think I agree with Rakesh in terms of the governance and the compliance frameworks that will be required to regulate AI is something that probably is even more important than just putting AI in everything. Having use cases and applications for every possible thing. There is a definite role. I see this as a great new leveler. Just as 50 years ago, people needed to know typewriter usage, which became computer usage. Now, if you don't know how to embed AI in your ways of working, you will be left behind by people who know it. So that's how I see it. But as I said in the beginning, human intelligence, the discretion, the judgment, they will never be able to completely be replaced by AI. That's why.
Definitely very, very important.
Very quickly, 2-3 things. One is the healthcare thought of the world was more wisdom oriented when cloning of sheep happened, Dolly happened, and we said no more further. Yeah, we showed restraint. The healthcare world showed restraint. There is no restraint shown by the technology companies. Yeah, the business ethics of those companies, and I don't want to criticize it, but we don't see it visible at all.
Yeah.
There is no business ethic visible at all in the way they are going about AI. So when you ask the question of worries, I think there is a very big worry. But let's also look at the advantage. I think there are 3 distinct advantages in healthcare. Number one advantage is that patient has become a consumer today. So consumer behavior is something that we see with patients. And if they are able to use whatever you use, an Apple Watch or a Whoop or something else to to look at their markers and really manage their own health individually, I think that's a very big advantage that AI can deliver to us. That okay, person is looking after himself or herself well, and therefore may not need assisted healthcare for a longer period of time. That might be some big boon. Second is prevention of errors, where we do a lot of diagnostics, we do a lot of screening, in all that places. If AI is able to help us to reduce errors, I think we will make faster progress in terms of treating somebody with a condition in a much predictive care and predictive modeling, and therefore we eliminate errors and we do the right thing. And we are seeing that in cancer treatments already. The third part is accelerating medicines for difficult disease or unmet medical needs. I think if AI is able to help us through, which is possible also, that we accelerate the process of getting to where we need to get in terms of treatments. These are the clear-cut areas where AI can help us. But probably, I think healthcare thought is needed to rein in the technology companies to understand what is the ethical line and what is the ethical divide between where you should go and where you should
not go. Very super, very, very good. So,
I'm going to try and take AI 5 steps ahead. Let's assume for a moment that AI is able to do all the good things that it has been advertised for, which is automate things, remove errors, get advancements. But the corollary of that is a lot of people are going to lose jobs, right? Because of AI. Or people who have jobs will have a lot more free time on their hand because AI, the things that I take 10 hours for doing, probably it'll happen in 3, 4, 5 hours as is being promised by AI. What is going to happen is people are going to have insane levels of time on their hand if AI does what it is all promising to do.
So the quick
Yeah.
question to you is that we said the same things in 1990s when computers came.
True.
Yeah. Neither the jobs were lost in that.
Agreed.
More jobs, more
Agreed.
skills came in, and people got more busy. So
hopefully that is the reality of what happens. But I'm saying let's go to the promised land of AI.
correct.
My feeling is at that time we'll have to reflect back on the learnings from COVID and learn to live time,
Correct.
spend time with your family once again in a good manner.
Correct.
I think that is what we'll all have to come back to.
That's a very good point.
Because that I personally believe everything that we're thinking of doing in AI ultimately is gonna have to lead to more happiness for all of us,
Right.
and probably I just want to tie it back to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and I think the joint family system that we've had, or the family as the center of unit that we have in India, is all going to all come back. AI probably will lead to people who are in I, me, myself, and centered around myself life, probably have a ton of mental issues, because if you are either not going to have a job or going to have a lot of time and don't know how to put, or you have, like you said, a kid with a new toy who has no idea how to use it well and just has like 100 chocolates in a day, is going to fall ill. We're going to have a massive issue of people who don't have the right support system, especially the emotional support system. I would say so, more than the financial support system, going to go down. And that's where, again, I truly believe that our Indian society has a massive leg up for all the good and bad that we've had about our family system. But I still think that we are very, very well connected as people, and in a lot of ways with whatever AI is promising. I do believe that we'll also have to start thinking of our mental health, emotional health, and some of those factors as well.
Thanks so much. Like any technological advantage has got advantage, and unless it is trained well with regulatory system, it can lead to the other way. I would like to summarize at the end, as we rightly said, India is the pharmacy of the world. India is the doctor's capital of the world. India is the nursing capital of the world. We have got right value system where family becomes important, and it is not the feeling of I, it is we and us which becomes important. That is the fundamental of Indian culture. With all these advantages, as some of the factors were highlighted by all of the panel members, collaboration, partnership is fundamental. Looking beyond the country and looking at the larger humanity becomes very important. Preventive healthcare becomes very important. Holistic health becomes important. Digitalization, using technology in a right way, can become important. And at the end of the day, India has been constantly talking. We started talking from G20, one planet, one earth, one family. We should keep on building, and healthcare can be an example and a catalyst for showing to the world that Vasudhaiva is not a myth. It is a reality. We can make difference to the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All I can say, it means good of ability. Yes, thank you. Thanks. Thank you.